Y'all want to know? And the list is long. And I have to have this list so I make sure that I know everything that we did. And I will start with mental health. Mental health was one of those things that we unintentionally walked into only because being friends, there were certain things that were happening in our lives as individuals that caused us to have conversation. And then those sparked questions of how do you deal with stress? How do you deal with anger? How do you deal with grief, loss? All of those things. Are you impatient? Do you need to seek counseling when you're going through a mental breakdown? Like all these different things. Are you on meds? Like all of those questions were being asked. And in addition to that, therapy was talked about. So both of us had gone through individual counseling before we met. And I believe at the time I was still going to therapy and everything like that. And so was he. So we definitely made it an open space to talk about how we felt like therapy was very beneficial and we wanted to continue that journey throughout, adulthood, parenting, and all of those things. And then next up was genetic counseling. So genetic counseling was done before we got engaged. And that kind of struck me by surprise only because my husband was the one that came with the idea of getting it done. And looking back, I'm like, smart man, good man, Savannah. Like he was on it because there are so many things that you do not know that is in your bloodline unless you get testing done for it. And that could be anything from autoimmune disease, cancers, all types of things, mental health disorders, all those different things that can just like pop up and you don't know unless you go get tested for it. So having the genetic counseling done, let us see what was in our bloodline and what will happen if the two of us come together, make a baby, what will the result be? And I feel like a lot of people skip this part because one, it's not talked about, and two, it is very easy to find yourself in a situation having a baby that can have disabilities or autoimmune disorders, any type of diseases and anything like that. And it could happen just because you procreated with the person that was carrying this sort of gene. So I feel like that's something that is like heavily overlooked that should not be. You need to know what kind of baby you're gonna have if y'all two chromosomes and genes and everything come together. Like that's important. Another thing was premarital counseling. Now, up to each his own. But I definitely think everybody should have premarital counseling done before they even think about having kids because you are going to be prompted with asking the hard questions that maybe you two have not went over, and you have an unbiased opinion coming in and assessing the compatibility and if you two are able to adapt through all of the life changes. So premarital counseling covered everything from family, conflict resolution, love languages. I mean, anything that you could think of that would come about with you two coming together, they were addressed. Mine was more of a spiritual premarital counseling, so we definitely dived in on faith, values, morals to just make sure that we were aligned. And then also difficult conversations came about money, how we would handle certain things, how will our parenting styles be. All that was covered in premarital counseling, so we can get an understanding of, okay, you are my person and we are compatible and we can do this, and they're going to give you the tools that you need to be able to have a healthy relationship. Another thing is we bought a house before we had kids, so very intentional with buying a home and making sure that it was a good financial decision. Being young, we both wanted to be homeowners, so we did that journey together. We were very particular about the cost, the area, the school districts, looking at public sex offenders, like all of that came into place when looking for a home because we knew eventually that we wanted to have kids and we wanted to raise kids in a safe area. So that was a big, big, big thing that we wanted to make sure that we had. Nothing wrong with apartment living, townhouse living, none of that, but it's just like how we viewed our child to be brought into this family. We wanted them to have their own space, wanted them to have a backyard, wanted them to have a dog. Like we laid all of that out and we were seeing eye to eye on what we wanted our childhood for our child's childhood to look like. And it was that. So we did that. Another thing was birth control. A lot of people are just anti-birth control, which to each his own, you do you. But as for me and my body, I want to have say so on whether or not a baby is going to be formed inside of me. So those were one of the things that I was comfortable with, and I was not backing down on that. I knew I did not want to have kids at a certain time. I knew that I wanted to put my career first, my entrepreneurship, do all the things that I wanted to do first before I had a kid. And you know, you get in love, you get with somebody, and then things happen. But I never wanted to bring in a baby because of something just happening. I wanted it to be intentional, and I wanted it to be planned. So that was something that I did, was get on birth control, and I actually timed it to where the contraceptive that I chose would pretty much line up with the time that I actually wanted to get off and start actively trying to have a baby. And that's exactly what I did. I got on a safe one, had no crazy side effects whatsoever, nothing outlandish from what people deal with, but I got off of it, and they said it takes 6 weeks to get pregnant. I got pregnant after 6 weeks. So everything was timed perfectly as far as when we wanted to have the baby, when we wanted to deliver, all of that. We planned all of that out to the T. Last thing, excelling in careers. We intentionally picked careers that was going to allow us the autonomy to be able to be present parents, and that was choosing skills that would allow us to be in roles that would allow us to work remotely, because daycare was definitely taken into consideration, childcare, all of that. And there's some things that people don't seem to think about. And just because you are in one role doesn't mean you need to stay in that role forever. And there are a lot of jobs that you can transition into that have great benefits, but can also allow you the ability to work from home so that you could balance family and work. And that was something that we did. Another thing, insurance policies in place. Make sure we had insurance policies, savings, all of that. Retirement, stock accounts, all that in the kid's name. Everything is ready to go so that when that child turns 18, or if she wants to pull money out of those accounts, the money is already there. And that was something that we did way before we even had kids. We didn't wait. We did that way before. So I strongly encourage people to do the same, because we don't need no more GoFundMes. We just don't. And we don't need to be robbing Peter to pay Paul to do certain things. Like, take care of your kids and like just be financially responsible and have those policies in place so that when big purchases need to happen, or if you die, your kids are straight. General wealth is being built in that way. Also, picking companies that have great policies and benefits. Something that never really gets talked about is like the leave of absence when you go on maternity leave. Some people just quit their jobs. Some people don't even look into the policies and the type of benefits that they have when they're actually planning to have a family. And it's sad that people can go on maternity leave and then they're just stuck and don't know what to do, and they're not making money and all those things, and they didn't do their due diligence to look into short-term disability, look at the type of maternity policies that their company offers, or even try to go work for a company that offers you the benefits to have, let's say, 18 weeks paid of maternity leave, and for you to be able to be home to spend time with your parents. Like, those opportunities are out there, but you need to upskill and make sure you're doing your due diligence to make sure you're picking the right career that fosters a good family and work balance dynamic. Of course, no brainer, budgeting, finances. And with time, as you earn more and as you get smarter with your money, I feel like it just gets a little bit easier for you to manage. And last but not least, having a village. A lot of people don't want to admit it, but you need a village to help raise your kids, whether you are using your actual family or you're paying for one. So I was definitely say that's something to consider. I know for us, we're very fortunate to live close to family, have family live with us to help us raise our child, and it is cost. The cost is just, I can't even imagine what it would have been like if I would have had to pay for certain things as a new mom, postpartum, and all these things, and just stress about who's going to be looking after my kid and all of those things. So these are just some of the things that we did to plan to have a family, and there's no right or wrong way, but I just feel like as long as you have a plan and it's laid out, I mean, I just feel like it'll just make life so much easier, and no struggle and no traumatization for the kids. Like, that's just that. But I know this was a lot and this was a long video, but this is the best way that I can explain all the things that we did leading up to us deciding that we wanted to be parents. So I hope this helps.